Okay, then let's start with this chapter. Chapter 8 is called Cost and Revenue Analysis. It has two parts. First part is cost analysis and the second part is revenue analysis. So today we'll be discussing about the first aspect of costing in economics. One term is not money cost. Money cost is accounting cost or explicit cost. The producers pay money to the factors. It is the money expense which a firm has to incur in hiring or purchasing factors. Now, what are factors of production? Land is used, labor is used, capital is used. Entrepreneur is a producer. So, from the producer point of view, he is hiring other three factors. When he is using those factors and paying for them, here we cover only those factors for which he makes payment. For example, he's borrowed money, so he'll pay interest on that. If he's using the services of workers, so he'll pay salaries and wages to the workers. So this is known as the money cost. Also, it includes non-factor payment as well, including raw material, power. This is also part of the money cost for which he makes payment. These are the examples: rent, salaries and wages, interest, raw material, power. So these are known as the money cost because payment is made for these. There is a second term which is used is economic cost. The term in economics, the cost of production is wider because in accounts we say the expenditure. In accounting cost, we say whatever he has paid, that is money cost. But in economics, the term is wider and it includes these three components: money cost, which is explicit cost, implicit cost, and normal profit. Now, first part we have already discussed. What is money cost? That is the payment or the expenses which a producer incurs and he has to pay for that, like raw material, like power, like rent, like salaries. This is explicit cost because he is to make payments. And implicit cost is for those factors which are owned by the producer. For example, a producer may be using his own building. It means he's not paying rent. A producer may be spending his own money. It means he's not paying interest. A producer may be working as a manager or as a managing director. He's not paying to himself. But in economics, we include the estimated cost. Estimated cost means we estimate how much is the rent of this building which is using for production, how much is the interest on the capital which he is investing himself, how much is the estimated salary of a managing director or a manager for which he is working. That means he is not paying, but we estimate it and include it in economic cost. And normal profit. Normal profit is an estimated expected return, minimum. A producer, when he starts his business, he expects a minimum reward without which he will not work. So if he says if he's not able to get even 2% or 5% of the investment as profit, he will not even run the business, he'll close it. In accounts, we say it is a profit, whatever little. But in economics, that minimum reward is estimated and included in the fixed cost. in the fixed cost. That ये तो profit आने ही आना है, इसके बिना तो business नहीं चलेगा. That means normal profit is the minimum reward that a producer expects from the business, without which he will not run the business. Therefore, when we talk about economic cost, there is some element of profit included in the cost. So that becomes slightly confusing for new students. They say, how can the profit be part of the economic cost? Because it is a fixed cost. It is the minimum reward the producer expects, that without which he'll not run business. So when we say there is a cost, we say there are two types of cost. One is called fixed cost, other is called variable cost, as we have done in chapter 7, law variable proportion. Fixed factors are constant. So the cost of the fixed factor is known as fixed cost, and variable, that is labor. So the cost of labor is variable, raw material is variable, hour is variable. So therefore, in economics, the term economic cost include all the three components: explicit, implicit, and normal profit. Little explanation of implicit definition is, it is also known as imputed, that is estimated cost of inputs owned by the owner and used for production purpose. Examples I have given, that is in case he is using his own building or land for production, so estimated rent of the building. If he is using his own capital, estimated interest on capital. If he is working as an employee of the business, that means as a manager or as a supervisor or as a director, so estimated salary of the person for which he is working as a manager or as a supervisor or as a director. What is the estimated salary of that? So sum total of estimated rent for which he is not paying, estimated interest for which he is not paying, estimated salary which he is not paying, is known as imputed or implicit cost. And normal profit is the minimum reward of profit or payment that a producer must get in order to carry out his risk of activity, production activity. It is the minimum reward or the remuneration that an entrepreneur expects for his services in production. It is similar to the firm's implicit cost. Hence, money cost is explicit cost and economic cost is explicit cost plus implicit cost plus normal profit. Yes, Vishnu. Any doubts so far?
No, sir.
Okay, let's proceed further. There's a term called opportunity cost. In economics, it's very important for decision making. Say, a farmer is producing wheat, then he has other options as well. So let me write down. Farmer decides to produce wheat. So he is deciding to produce wheat. What other option he had if he was not to produce wheat? So his other options were also there. So he could have produced other options. He could produce vegetables. He could cultivate sugarcane. Or he could use the land for
rice,
season में उस टाइम नहीं था, cereal ले लेते हैं. You can say you could use some dairy farming on the piece of land because the land is a limiting factor. Land being the limiting factor, because he decides to use land for wheat. Now we have to see if he decided to produce vegetable, he would have produced vegetable worth rupees 25,000. 25,000. And if he decided to produce sugarcane, if he had decided, then he would have produced worth rupees 20,000. That is the estimated return from producing sugarcane. And with dairy farming, he could have earned, by using the same piece of land and other inputs, he would have earned return कहते हैं उसको, he would have got a return of say 40,000. So we say opportunity cost of wheat. In economics, we say opportunity cost of wheat. This is not the cost of producing wheat. Opportunity cost is the value of next best alternative which is given up. So opportunity cost is measured in terms of the next best alternative which is given up. We are talking of opportunity cost of wheat in terms, we'll say, what is he's given up? He's given a vegetable, he's given up sugarcane, he's given up dairy farming. We will not say all of these. Next best alternative which is given up, that is dairy farming. So we'll choose one next best alternative. So best alternative was dairy farming. He could have undertaken on that piece of land and got a return of 40,000. So he's given up is equal to, so we'll say opportunity cost of wheat is equal to rupees 40,000. This concept of opportunity cost is applied to every economic activity. Say, a person is employed, because factors, we talk about factors. So far we have done land. We can also talk about a person. A person decide to work as a supervisor in X factory, and he decides to get a particular salary. How much he's getting? Irrelevant. He decides to work in factory, X factory. That is his choice. What is the opportunity cost? What is the opportunity cost of the person working in X factory? That is equal to the sacrifice of next best alternative job where he could work. Next best alternative job where he could work. He could work in Y factory, he could work in Z factory, he could work in A factory or B factory. So how much he could get in that factory, in the other factory? So he had option to get a job in 3 more factories which were close by, and he could get a salary of 10,000 in one of the factory. In other factory he was getting 12,000. He had an offer which he didn't join, and in third factory he had an offer of 15,000. Now his next best alternative is 15,000. So we'll say the opportunity cost of the person working in X factory is 15,000. Now, why did he decide to work in X factory? That is his choice. How much he is getting in X factory, as far as the term opportunity cost is concerned, we don't have to see how much is getting in X factory. But there is another term called economic rent, which is not in a course, but it's relevant to mention here. If he decides to work in X factory, he should be getting more than 15,000. Otherwise, why should he work in X factory? Suppose he gets in X factory 17,000. So that's why he's happy working in X factory, because he's getting more than his next best alternative. So this is where decisions are taken. When we talk about decision making, this term opportunity cost helps producers take a decision, government take a decision, customers take a decision, employees got take a decision, employers can take a decision. Employers also see, okay, I'm employing this person in our factory, and if he's not paid, he will go because he has an opportunity cost. He will see what is my next best alternative available. Sir, I'm getting 15,000 in other factory. Why are you paying 13,000 to me? I'll go there. My opportunity cost is 15. So this is how decisions are taken. So by definition, what is the meaning of opportunity cost? Opportunity cost is the value of the next best alternative which is given up. I hope you got it.
Yes, sir.
In terms of the next best alternative is given up. So let us proceed. So opportunity cost of producing any product is the value of the next best alternative good that is given up to produce this product. Now you understand the context. Opportunity cost of producing any given product is value of the next best alternative good that is given up. So I give the example. Let's say that a farmer has a piece of land on which he can grow wheat or rice. So that could be a season where he has an option. If he chooses to grow wheat, then he cannot grow rice and vice versa. Hence, the opportunity cost for rice is the wheat crop that he forgoes. Next is a real cost. This is imaginary. This is a very imaginary concept. Real cost. It refers to the expectations of the owners for the efforts they put in, time they spent for the business, sacrifices they make in investing their money, time, and efforts in producing a particular product. It is difficult to measure all this in terms of money. So why so? Take an example of a producer. You say I go to the office in the morning at around 9 o'clock. I sit in the factory, work till 8 p.m. Throughout the day, I'm busy. I'm attending to the problems of employees. I'm attending to the customers. I'm attending to the factory production. I arrange funds for production activity. and I work a lot, and it's a stressful job. I must get about a 1.5 lakh a month. That is the return. I expect minimum 1.5 lakh. If I don't get that even, I think I should quit. Now here it is not the minimum reward. It is not the normal profit. Here, the owner's expectations in terms of the time they spend in terms of money they invest in terms of the efforts they put in, what do they expect from the business? That is real cost. So here, if I say, Bishop, if you are to run a business, what will you expect? Sir, I think I'm a beginner. Even if I get a 40,000, it's happy. Okay.
Yes, right.
Other says, oh, if you start a business and you put in that much effort, I'm a busy person. So if I start it, I must get around 1 lakh to 20,000. Okay. So how did you get it? Other says 40, you say 1 lakh 20,000. There's so much of difference. I say that is my level of thinking. All right. So therefore, in economics, this is a very imaginary concept. So we don't estimate it, but we study. We study because every person, every employer of the factors he expects. So therefore, the real cost is an imaginary. We cannot estimate it. So in economics, we can't assess. So when we talk about decision making, production, cost, profits, level of production. So this real cost we really can't discuss in decision making. So we only study in theory what is real cost, but in practice it is difficult to apply. It can be useful for a person to take his own decision, but not to take decision at national level or in the industry level. There is a term called private cost. Private cost refers to the cost of production incurred by a producer in producing a commodity, and private cost include both explicit and implicit. Here, when I talk about implicit, it includes normal profit also, because implicit cost is the economic cost of running a business, for which the the owner's expectations are there. So here, private cost include both explicit and implicit cost. There is a term called social cost. So what happen is, here I tell you about social cost. Social cost is equal to private cost plus external cost. Now, this is very debatable, and it is discussed uh, for decision making by governments or planners. But for a producer point of view, we cannot estimate external cost. Yes, private cost, we know what is the private cost, but we cannot estimate external cost. Now, what is external cost? That's the last topic of discussion today. External cost. See, when a factory is set up in a locality or in an area, what are the environmental concerns? Can you tell me? What are the environmental issues when a factory is set up? Air pollution, water pollution, and noise pollution. Then sitting getting congested. Then traffic increase. Then housing issues. That means a higher rent. All these are the consequences of factories being set up in an area. That's why we talk about Ludhiana, Delhi, because all these are the outcome of industrialization. The concentration of population at a place because they have to work in factories and offices. And as a result of concentration of population and industries in that area, these are the consequences. So when there is air pollution, water pollution, noise pollution, city congested, what happens? There is higher medical cost. To build up immunity, higher cost on food, quality food, because people have to eat quality food to improve their immunity. And sufferings. These are called social costs. So external costs are the cost because of the industrial activity, because of the production activity. So the sum total of private cost is the explicit plus implicit cost that we have already discussed. This is explicit plus implicit cost. So this is economic cost. So in economics, we study economic cost, but as far as the external part of the social cost is concerned, these are the consequences because of this. The external cost is the cost of medical expenses because people fall sick, they have to spend money on that. People they find it difficult to get a house, they have to pay higher rent. People find it difficult to commute, they have to spend extra on petrol. They have to spend extra on the vehicle they have to buy. They have to spend extra on food because to improve their immunity. These are the outcomes of production activity. So they can compare it with the people living in a peaceful area where there's no pollution, so health is better. So what society is to bear because of production, what the society is to bear because of production is known as social cost. What a producer is to bear for producing a particular product is known as private cost. What society is to bear because of production activity is known as social cost. So I repeat with the conclusion that private cost is what the producer has to bear to produce a product, which is explicit plus implicit cost, whereas social cost is what the society is to bear because of the production activity happening, sum total of private cost plus external cost. External cost is the extra cost which the society pays for maintaining the health, for living in that area, for traveling to the place of work, the extra cost they have to pay, that is social cost. So in economics, it is difficult to estimate the external cost. However, for decision making at the government level and the planners, they do consider how much society is to pay for or the bear the pains and the sufferings of the people because of the production activity. So they neutralize it. So shift the factories outside, which will not cause a problem. But even if it's shifted outside, people have to travel. So I hope you are able to understand this concept.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Rest of the topics will continue in the next lecture. So I'll send you the notes for this till here and
Oh,
the PPT so you can go through it.
okay.
All right. Take care. Bye.